Neil, did you see any changes or corrections to the?
I do have a comment to make. If I was absent, we had that discussed before, just to put an absent at the top and just, I would have no vote then in the meeting, so that should be changed on that.
Okay, we.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
No.
Motion that we approve the regular minutes from November 6th.
Second?
Okay, calling the roll, Mr. Hedden?
I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Right. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Yes. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
I have none.
Hearing of the public on agenda items only. Okay. Then the zoning department.
Good evening. The monthly report for zoning for October. We continue to be fairly busy in the zoning department. For the month of October, we had 47 permits at a little over $5 million of value, and the year-to-date, 236 at just under $37 million of value. Single-family dwellings continue to roll in. We're at, that's the end of that page, please.
Go to the next page.
Well, actually, I think it's the end of this one. Yeah, right there. We had, year-to-date, we have 77 single-family dwelling permits. That's a 102% increase over last year, and at a value of $18,800,000. That's 66, well, almost 67% increase from last year. Zoning complaints, definitely consistent. 13 for this year and the 2 previous years. Year to date, we're at 163, which is down a little bit from the last 2 years. On our monthly meetings, the Board of Zoning Appeals had 2 variance requests for a fence variance. Both of those were approved. Zoning Commission did not meet. They had nothing on the agenda. And project plan review is Jimmy John's and O'Reilly's. I'd like to note, too, that project plan review is really getting busy. We're going to have 5 of them tomorrow, and I think all of last year we only had about 4. So we've got 5 just for the month of November. A few items to note is as mentioned previously, zoning permits were pulled for the Colony Apartments, and they should be starting at any time. 3621 McCord Road, that's the property by the bike trail. There's a proposed zone change for 8 units, 4 duplexes there. The Lucas County Plan Commission recommended approval on that, and our own Zoning Commission recommended approval last week. And that should be before this board, the first meeting in December. Gabriel Brothers had the grand opening last week. And Starbucks is looking to open in early 2014. And the Grove at Oakland Village had their groundbreaking on October 8th. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Darrell.
Thanks, Darrell. Public Works, safety work up the leaf pickup at least.
Good evening. The only thing I'd like to report on is the storm that went through Sunday evening. We had 9 locations where trees were blocking roadways. We still have a road closure at Forest Lawn between Homerdale and Corville. Telephone pole snapped in half, and it's a low wire situation there. And as of, I think, today, everything is open. All the roadways are open other than the Forest Lawn location. So we are in full force with leaf pickup, 2 separate contractors plus the entire road department deployed on leaf pickup. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Darrell.
Did you get the trees? You said you had some blockages in some of the roads when I got your email, or no? Were they blocking some of the roads, the trees that fell over?
Yeah, we had 9 locations
Okay.
with blocked trees.
Yeah,
Still,
because I know it took a while to get the power restored back around the town, because I talked to the Edison too about things.
yes, specifically the Quarry
Yeah.
Whitefoot.
All right, because I had a bunch of calls, so got all resolved, thanks.
Thank you, George. Next up is the fire department with their monthly report.
Good evening. You have before you the October monthly report. It's slightly just a different format in that report. What you see on the right, you'll see that there's a column for incidents and then also a column for responses. An incident is a single incident where it's tagged in the MDT where we send units. A response, and I'll give you an example, if we had an injury accident right here on the corner, that would be one incident, but we send 2 vehicles to that incident, so it's considered 2 responses, because we tied up two pieces of our equipment, or half of our resources. As you go down there, we've had 132 incidents, 88 incidents and 132 responses, which is, we're up about 181 from last year. On page 2, the EMS incidents, again, we're going to that new firehouse system, so I'll be able to get you very detailed information when we go back to that preferred RMS system. But we are up 114, 2,735 from 2621 from last year. Under our mutual aid agreements, we had 2 requests from Springfield Township for ambulances. We had no ambulances available in the township, so we requested 2 ambulances from Springfield, and we also had Springfield come to our district to help us during 2 fire incidences. So they took a smoke odor removal, and they took an outside rubbish or waste fire for us. So this month we had 4 requests from Springfield. We did not go to Springfield at all. Under page 5, the community risk reduction, October 12th was our safety festival that we had at Number 4's Fire Station. For those of you that attended, I think you'll agree that it was a great success. We had over 700 people there, a little more overwhelming than it was the year before, and everybody had a good time. Later on, there's a letter with some statistics for you there as what we did during that project. Building and project plan reviews, we had 15, Deputy Chief Freilich conducted 15 plan reviews, 1 license inspection of a daycare, 15 environmental reviews, and as I was talking to Mike here a few minutes ago, he said that's an inordinate amount. We usually don't have but maybe 2 or 3, so there's a lot of construction planning, hopefully, in the township. Going to start again. 6 consultation for future construction, and 7 final acceptance tests or an upgrade to a fire protection system. During the October, again, October is Fire Prevention Month, we had 24 public education events, we had 375 fire safety inspections, and we installed 5 smoke detectors. Chief Freilich also, with the State Fire Marshal's Office, was in court for the business at 8201 Central. I went to the prosecutor's office for non-compliance of fire regulations, and it has since been closed and tagged. Chief Freilich continues to work with the prosecutor's office and the business owner to try to have him come to compliance on the laws of fire regulations. Page 6 was our monthly Lucas County EMS training. As you might remember from last month, this month was an 8-hour class, or October was an 8-hour class. It was our ACLS refresher. So that's why those numbers, the 456 overtime numbers, are a little bit higher than normal. We also went ahead and introduced a different electronic run station log book that we trained the guys on, and we also practiced on self-contained breathing apparatus and our rapid intervention crews and packs. The next page is a letter from Lieutenant Morris, and I'm going to have to put my spectacles on for this because he didn't do it in large font, sorry. Is a letter from Lieutenant Morris, basically summing up our fire safety day that we did. It was a 2-hour event. We had 700 attendees. We gave away 15 bicycle and bicycle helmets. We made sure the kids had the helmets with them. We gave over 100 smoke detectors away, and 90 children were professionally fingerprinted. and identified by the New York Life Insurance Group that we had come in there. And we put some new pieces of our PR equipment in service. We have a Sparky the safety dog now. We'll have him come out one night to the meeting so you can see what he looks like. During also the week of Fire Prevention Week, we visited over 1,200 children in the schools, and we received about 600 fire escape plans. That's how the kids went ahead and got tickets for the bikes, is by turning in a fire escape plan to us. The next page is a letter that we received from Ray Carroll, Chief Ray Carroll. I was thanking the fire department for assistance to 2 officers on I think it was an injury accident. They stopped on the individual that the driver of the vehicle got a little bit rambunctious, and our fire crews helped subdue the patient with the officers. And on the last page is a letter, again, from a teacher this time. Basically what the letter is that she was teaching her class some math facts and whatnot, and as I guided the class through the lesson, I asked them to look carefully and raise their heads if they saw something that was missing from the picture. They were looking at a picture of a home, a room. Tommy raised his hand and exclaimed, "Smoke detectors." Of course, there were not any smoke detectors in there in that picture at all. The teacher asked Tommy, "How many smoke detectors should you have?" He said 3, 1 for every bedroom. So that's the teaching that we do at the schools does go ahead and sink through. Last but not least is another letter, next page. And this is from a resident who our crews, Jim Thompson, Craig Kapersky, and Ben Kopis ran on. It was a lady that was hemorrhaging. They had treated her appropriately, got her to the hospital with the assistance of Ace and Andrew Vesic from Life Squad 10, where she delivered her baby, and mom and baby are doing just fine. It's a little letter of appreciation from the father. And that's all I have, unless you have something for me.
I did get a call from Don Finnegan, and he was inquiring about the evening, I think it was Halloween night.
Yes, sir.
Where there was a fire alarm that was set off at Burger 419, and did we, he thought the owner or operator of Burger 419 had called in to let the fire department know that they would be operating a smoke machine?
Yes, they were operating a smoke machine. They were only supposed to do it for 1 night. They ended up doing it for 2 nights.
Okay.
And the night in question was the night that they didn't say they were going to operate it.
Okay.
And the alarm company went ahead and called the fire department, and we responded to that incident.
Okay.
As a fire alarm, yes, sir.
That's where I figured the communication breakdown was, the alarm company calling and you guys, our dispatch was notified and the alarm company called, it might have.
Yes, and we responded. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It was a Halloween, they had some Halloween event where they had a costume party or something, they had a smoke machine they were using.
When we get these letters, do we acknowledge when they mail them in? My question is with that is, it might be nice to have a booklet. We might need that someday for references, and could we call the people when they send the letters in to say, hey, could we use you for marketing of the fire department, things like that?
Yeah, we do keep the letters.
And will they let us use that for any other purposes in the future?
We can make sure that we contact them and
Okay,
make sure that it's
might be
okay to
something to
use
think
them.
about. Okay.
What we normally do is we put a copy of the letter in each individual employee's personnel file, so they have it on file for a job well done.
Thank you.
That's true too.
Public record, so we may not have to bother.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Next up is the Police Department. Confirm me with your monthly report.
Good evening. You'll see on the screen up front, we'll start with page 2. There were 1,299 police CAD entries, 433 for the fire department, for a total of 1,732 total CAD entries. And then I won't read all the numbers. You can see the different phone calls that came in. That came to almost 6,400 total phone calls into the police department, which are separate from the actual CAD entries. Turning to page 3, our crime stats, you'll see that
as we go down. Calls for service, we're still down a little over 1,600 calls, which is a good thing for the police department as far as the CAD entries, calls for service. The ORC citations are pretty close to the same. Moving down, property damage accidents, we've been up all year. We're still up about 50 from the year before. Unfortunately, we've been down in the injury accidents compared to last year, and we've caught up. I really don't have an explanation for that. I know as we get more days, actually, especially when it starts getting cold and stuff, as the fire department can attest, we get more accidents, which unfortunately result in more injury accidents too. So hopefully we'll be able to keep those down as low as possible. Moving on to the criminal offense reports, we're still way down. I'm happy to report we're still way down in burglaries. We're way down in robberies, domestic violence and assaults, which there's no real preventative thing for those on the part of law enforcement. We're actually down. The OVIs were down. And you can see the other ones. The thefts, we're still down a little bit. And overall, all the other crimes were down. Not by a great amount, but we are down. I will tell you that we continue to experience a lot of car break-ins throughout the township. It's been going on all year, it's been going on in the summer, and I expect it's only going to pick up considerably with the holiday season. So we'll again try to get something on the website and to try to educate people, just the basics, okay, the common sense things about not leaving valuable property visible from outside a car and that sort of thing. But I will also say, though, that with those thefts from vehicles, we've made several arrests of different suspects. We've been very successful in going after those. I'm not going to give away our secrets how we're doing it in a public forum. I'll let you know personally if you want to know, but we have had great success that way. But it seems like the minute we clean up one problem, one of two things happens. And I may have mentioned this before. Either the suspect gets out, and a lot of times they're heroin addicts or whatever, and they're right back at it, or it seems like another person fills that void, you know. So we do to continue to have success, and we'll continue to do the things we're doing to be proactive in that. Page 4, our assigned cases. As you can see, we had 65 assigned cases in October, 30 of which were cleared, which left 35 still active. We were able to clear 52 cases from prior months for a total clearance of 82 cases during the month. On page 5, our officer, I'm losing my voice here, with the DEA task force, you can see it was a pretty good month as far as seizures, especially as far as monies, and I won't read that whole paragraph there, but you might find it interesting to read how they come across these things and how we continue to let the crime continue so that we can identify more people involved and actually seize more assets. And the $210,619 seized by that task force, you can see $180,000 of it resulted from that sting in Lima. So I expect, as I said before, we usually end up with 6 to 10% or so of those seizures by the task force. So it's a nice little side benefit or a little perk, along with the most important thing of cleaning up the drugs. Page 6, one thing you won't see there that I'll mention right away is from October 14th to October 19th, we conducted what we call our core training, which is 16 hours of training. It involves all the officers. A lot of the training that the officers receive are specialized or special to their assignments. Detectives get obviously investigative training, police officers, street survival, things like that. But the core training is 16 hours over 6 days because it's kind of a scheduling nightmare to get all the officers, as you can imagine, with the days and such. But that training consisted of day 1. We introduced the pit maneuver training to all the officers. with our OPATA qualified instructors. That's the thing you see on TV, the thing that was very public last fall, where they actually bumped the vehicle in the left rear corner and are able to take the vehicle out. Only in very, very critical situations, though. That is used very, very little, and there has to be many, many criteria that have to apply. For one, it's got to be 45 miles an hour or less, and then just different things to make sure that it's done very safely. And again, only in certain situations too, as we experienced last year with the cars on the expressway going the wrong way and that sort of thing. Along with that pit maneuver training, we did what we call scenario-based training. We put officers in certain life-threatening situations, and using simunitions and other type less lethal training equipment. We put them in those situations to see how they react or how they respond, and then we go over that. It's very, very good training, and the officers love it, and it really prepares them for what, God forbid, they may encounter out there on the road. The one thing you will see in about the fourth paragraph down, we conducted the DEA Drug Take-Back Day on Saturday, October 26th. Actually, I have a photo here if any of you are interested in seeing what was collected, but over the course, since April, when we had our last take-back day, we've collected 149.5 pounds, of which almost exactly half of that, 75 pounds, we collected on that one day. So that's a great service to the community. I know Community Affairs, especially Sergeant Whalen, has been really, really good on promoting that to the public. We've had commercials and such, and so with SCAT's assistance, they bought the box and such, so they were instrumental in putting that together. I would consider that a very successful program. Moving on to page 8, our 2 DARE officers have moved into Hillview, Whiteford, and Central as far as the DARE program. I know November 7th, just the beginning of this month, we had the graduation we had the actual graduation for Whiteford. That's a misprint. That should be Hillview, Stranahan, and Central. Just caught that, because we just did have the graduation for Whiteford. And yeah, I remember seeing you in the audience. Speed trailer, we continue to locate it out at places where we get complaints and such. And one thing that we're going to be doing next year, we budgeted for, is to try and get another speed trailer that'll capture the data. May be helpful for Greg too, in being able to record. You know, sometimes, there's a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, that there's a perceived problem, but once you get the speed trailer out there, it's not the problem that the complainants may have thought it was. And it records volume of traffic and all that sort of thing. The one we did have was breaking down, and so we actually need a new speed trailer for that. And again, not a real busy month for the canine officer. No big, unfortunately, no big seizures or anything like that, but he continues to make stops, be very active out there from 7 p. to 3 a.m., the peak times that we've identified to have the canine out there, and making good stops and taking small amounts of drugs off the streets. And page 10, I won't go over it, but you have all the Sylvania Court fine money and the seizures and such for the month of October. There's a couple pretty good seizures in there. You'll notice one notably for over $9,500. And with that, I think I'm finished. If you have any questions or anything.
Thank you.
Good, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Next up, under the administrator, I have 2 resolutions. First resolution is to authorize the administrator to enter into an agreement with the City of Sylvania for prisoner transport services. Up to January 31st, 2011, we did have a contract with the City of Sylvania where we would transport their prisoners down to the jail for a fee. For some reason, Sylvania thought it was in their best interest to cancel that contract in 2011, and they have since contacted Chief Bomey, and they'd like to renew that contract. The chief works up the figures of what it costs to transport the prisoners, and the contract is for $8,184 for 1 year that they will pay us.
Offer Resolution 13-118, authorize administrator to enter into contract with City of Sylvania for prisoner transport.
Second.
Let's see, Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
My next resolution is approving of an opening of a bank account at Genoa Bank. Jim, correct me if I misstate this, but they have shown an interest in bidding on our CDs and investments. And to do that, we have to have a mechanism where we can wire them the money. And so we need to set up an account with them so we can wire the money to their bank, and then they can invest in the CD. Is that correct, Jim? I think that's...
There's going to be no checks or deposit tickets or anything.
Just an account.
I'll offer Resolution 13-121 to approve opening a bank account at Genoa Bank.
Second.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
I'm going to abstain.
Next up is the fiscal officer, Mr. Simcoe, your financial report.
Okay. Well, I think our report is coming up. And there it is. And we really, our standard percentage is 83.3, as you can see, what it should be. Expenditures continue to be down. See, that's the numbers we watch so much. Revenues are fairly consistent, except you'll see in the general fund, it is up. But we've been aware of that. I think it's just from the state issues and the like. Actually, all funds that we think are going to equal or exceed our revenue projections, well, really looking at the police and fire, general road already do. And our expenditures keep going nicely, so it's a good report, I think.
Great work, Dave.
Thank you.
Looks good.
And then I just have two resolutions. The first is 13-119, and the Road and Bridge Fund needs additional monies in the training line. And we've added, I believe, to that one, a couple other things that aren't on mine right now, but they're up there. And they're small amounts. You can see we're just moving some money around just a little bit to cover some accounts that are running a little bit low. Need to get some money in there, but very small amounts this week.
All right, I'll offer 13-119, transfer appropriations.
Second.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
And lastly, Resolution 13-120 to the fire department needs to recognize the donation of the EMS golf cart within the grant and donation fund. And that should be coming up in a minute. I don't know.
It's there.
And so,
All right, I'll offer 13-120, increase appropriation and unencumbered balance.
okay.
Second.
Mr. Genoway seconds. Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Open discussion?
Yes, I have a report from the state that the JUD and JUD-Z, which was Joint Economic District and District Zones, they're trying to eliminate those from the state by making everybody who's in those zones approve being in those zones. So with that, Spencer just passed theirs, and they're having a little issue with that. So you guys, I want to make sure you knew about that. And with that, I had something that I'd like to bring up. I'd like to make an accountability policy because I was asked on the SAGR board, Baron Black wants to be reappointed to that position. It's up to you guys if you want to do that and when you want to do that. And I said, that's fine. I says, but we still haven't heard anything from Troy anymore about TARDA. And I think, if these guys are going to be on these boards, they should come back and report to us once in a while what's going on. Because you and I had that discussion early on too. That would be a good idea for them. Tell us what's going on because we don't know, and then we find out something in the paper or something. I think we should just be informed. They should at least attend one meeting a month or every other month to keep us informed of what's going on. And I hope you guys agree with that. And I'd like Mr. Zeitler to drop a policy to that effect.
Yeah, I would agree, maybe a little less frequent, maybe
Sure, whatever's good.
quarterly or something along
Yeah.
those lines.
Good point.
Anything's good, that's fine. I just think we should have something like that, though. Don't you
Yeah.
guys agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought Barron had expressed to me that he was done on the SAGR board.
He was, but he said they want him one more term. He said it at the last meeting, so it's up to you guys if we want to wait till next month after this next meeting. Since I'm on that board I'll let you guys know what happens at the next meeting if he still wants to continue. Otherwise, we'll ask for applications to come through.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Trustees, what I'll do is I'll talk to each one of you to get ideas on
Okay.
this policy.
That's good, and we can get it drawn up.
I'll draw something up.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
That's all I have.
Hearing of the public on non-agenda items.
Mr. Simcoe?
Yes, we have. Oh, there you are.
Albert? I think my eyesight's going and your pencil was going.
Okay, Albert Wagenfield, 5562 Elmer Drive. I just wanted to throw this out at you. I've been come to a lot of trustees meetings, and a lot of times I've seen, like our police chief or public works guy, these guys do a super job, okay? And then, after this meeting, I went to Ottawa Park where they had, like, the Toledo Police, they showcased their police department, their fire department. I said, this is crazy. We probably got the better police department, we definitely got a better fire department. In the township, fires leave, pick up, and all that, you can't beat it. The only thing I think it lacks is we're not showcasing it. So, my thought is to put together maybe a Sylvania Township Day. And I've thrown that out to a lot of people, and they like the idea. They said, well, do it, and tell us what we can do to help you out. So, now I'm looking for a where, when, and how, but I think it's an idea, and maybe, I'm thinking like, showcasing our fire department, because what they did at Ottawa Park, they had a circle where they had the fire department, then they had the police department, all the things they're doing, and they also showed the maintenance, like the leaf truck, the scrapers, and the whole shot. And these guys are heroes, I don't know, I live on Elmer Drive, and I see the difference between who plows their snow right and who don't. And Sylvania Township's is heads and shoulders above anything I've ever seen. And I think we should have a place where we can brag about it, Now, I notice you guys do it in this meeting, but I think the fire department and all that should have a bigger audience. And I think our audience should be our township. And so far, everybody I've talked to in the township, they really like the idea because they're proud of who they are. I was born in this township. And I take a great deal of pride in saying, this is where I'm from, and I'm proud of where I'm from. And I went, let's start doing something about it. And some of the thoughts I went through anyway, like the police department, they have history. There's a history. But they used to really call them nothing but constables. We used to have the JPs and all that. And I've talked to the guy, said, geez, we remember when this, and every time I talk to a fire department, I get the volunteers, we remember this. So my idea is, let's have a booth for the police department, but also have a booth for the history of the police department. Get a group can do that, get a group that can give us the history of the fire department. And I remember Jasper Lewis on the scraping roads, he used to have what we call a telephone booth on a Caterpillar, and they have a history. And I'm thinking, crap, we ought to do that ourselves. We have small businesses in here, we have big business. We got Central Avenue Strip. We can showcase our businesses in here, our restaurants, our services, and all that. So slowly, I'm getting more people saying, I want to throw in with this. And what I want to really do is let you guys know what I'm doing and get your blessings and your help and your support with that idea.
Great idea, Al. I like that.
Yeah. John, if you could, work with each department and maybe get somebody that could be a point of contact for Al.
Yeah.
And, if all the departments are on board, I think it's a great idea and we can keep moving this ball forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And my first goal, where I still go, is like a Labor Day weekend, because I would like to have it on a holiday where it's a big deal. And somewhere down the road, we're going to call it Sylvania Township Day. Not Sylvania City Day, not Springfield Day, this Sylvania Township Day and make it a holiday. That's our holiday. So,
All right, Al, great job.
Thank you. And the night of the Als, Mr. Hayes. That's why I called you Albert. No confusion.
I don't want to date myself, but him and I were on the fire department way, and he was a hell of a lot older than me. So. Anyway, Al Hayes, 7040 Whitetail Court. I guess I get a little over rambunctious and stuff, and Darrell and I have had a couple of heated conversations, and I want to clear the air. I think there's some miscommunications here. I think people are juggling the ball too much. I won't go into all of it, but I want to go into Cinco de Mayo. I represent about 4 or 5 or 15 or 20 neighbors in my neighborhood of Wildwood Hollow. As you pull out of Squirrel Bend, you see Cinco de Mayo, okay? I've watched them go through where they put up some sticks and put a tarp up. I've watched them string lights on some poles, and then the next thing you know, they tore all that down or blew down, and then they put up a patio with a fence around it. Mr. Darrell there, he checked it out and said he had a permit for both of that, correct? And then I see this lean-to canopy come up in this portable bar, okay? And I said something to Darrell, and Darrell looked at it, and apparently they had a permit for that, or you looked at it, correct?
I'm still checking on the roof, the canopy.
Yeah. Yeah, but I had asked you to go out there before. Did you go out there? At Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah.
So when you looked at the canopy, what did you think?
I don't see an issue.
Okay. All right. Now I see a tent up. All right. Now there's a tent up. Is there a permit for that? Yeah. You're going to have people out there. I mean, and this canopy is huge. This is a stick-made canopy. You can't just start building stuff on the end of a building without permit. The thing of it is, it looks so ratty when you come out of my neighborhood, that's what I look at. And that's what my neighbors look at. Okay, a couple other things come up. There's 4 or 5 different places that I gave you, John, the addresses. I gave Darrell. Other people have gave Darrell the addresses. And Darrell went out and checked it. And I'm not picking on Darrell right now, but we're going to get it out in the open. And he went out there and he asked the people. He says, does this car run? Yeah, the car runs. My son's going to start driving it. Does not have a plate on it. Zoning says you can't have them in the driveway. There's 5 of them in the township. We've been fighting this for years before Darrell ever got here about cars without plates on them. So as I come out of my driveway, it just happens to be for the last 8 months, there's a red Saturn there, and everybody has the address of that. No plate on it. It's still sitting there. I don't see any documentation from anybody that did anything. I care about this township, and if I'm stepping on somebody's toes, that's too bad. We need to get these things taken care of. One of my friends came up here and was told at the office there, for zoning, he went in there, and somebody said, hey, we're not open on Friday. Who let you in here? Well, he just walked in there. We start treating township people like that, we're going to have problems. So I ain't getting scared out of the woods by no hoot owl, but I want some answers. And one of the answers I was supposed to be given tonight was whether they had a permit for that canopy. Do they have a permit for that canopy? Right. And that's been brought up how long ago? We're not going to have a township like that as long as I live here. I'm sorry I got to get into it with you, but homie, don't play no games. When you push me too far, I'm coming at you. And I'm coming at you, Darrell. Got it? I want it taken care of, and I expect you people to give that to me in writing. And this gentleman was supposed to get a hold of me 2 weeks ago. You told me that, John. And nobody called me. It got handed from you to him, to him, to him, and I'm back with Darrell. I don't need that crap. I ain't gonna take it either. Thank you.
Darrell, do we have, what is the policy on a vehicle without a license? And what is our procedure to handle?
It falls under the disabled vehicle, disabled, inoperable, without plates, are not to be more than 2 weeks on a property.
More than 2 weeks.
The problem is, how do you enforce that if you can't go onto the property? You know, the disabled or inoperable, quite often is obvious, the 3 flat tires and the transmission sitting off to the side on the ground. Send a letter to the property owner. If they tell me it's operable and it has current plates, and it appears in good shape, then we pretty much leave it at that. There's plenty of cars out there that sit in a driveway for months at a time. People go to Florida, people have their summer cars, winter cars, whatever. Their toys, they don't move, but they're operable. They sit in the driveway, they're in good shape.
But they also need to be licensed and registered? Is part of our zoning code say that they need to be licensed and
Well, it's part
registered?
of the ORC. But again, if we can't go on the property, how, I can't read that little sticker from the street if it's in the driveway, or, if it's in the backyard, you can't even see if it has a plate or not.
Yeah, if it's not past the front property line, and it's in their backyard, how do you know?
Well, I do think there are ways to resolve that.
You're right, Al. If it's in the front.
What I'll do is I'll contact John Burrell and find out how legally you can go on the property to check a violation. To me, there must be some way to be able to check a violation on property.
That would probably be-
The fire department can go on.
That would be for the police department though, John.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'll ask
Under
John Burrell,
ORC,
maybe
that's
the
police.
Police officer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll find out the proper way to do it, and if there is a way, then we'll institute that.
As somebody whose eyesight is failing as I approach 50, this phone cameras and things can capture a lot closer images and things and just start to document. If we've got a law or regulation on the books, we should enforce it. And, I believe that's there so people don't start piling up multiple cars and things. And, it starts with one, and let's get that. And I did drive by Cinco de Mayo. It does kind of, it just looks run down. I don't know if their zoning and permits are in place, but I might suggest some screening of something, because when you come out of that neighborhood, which is, a very nice neighborhood, you are looking straight into that thing, and it looks like a,
Yeah, I heard about the tent this morning, and I went out there and checked it out, and, yeah, it looks like, kind of reminds me of somebody when they have like a graduation party or something like that kind of temporary
Do they own
tent.
that
And they have no permit for that, so a letter will be going out to them. I'm
and
sorry?
obviously
Do they own
safety is
their
a
property?
concern too.
I don't think so.
I would
because it's a
doubt it.
strip
That's why I
center.
think we should probably contact the landlord.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Go through the landlord and go, instead of going through them directly, and tell them that we have regulations in place and let them give them, rules.
Yes.
Regarding the red Saturn, I've never heard about that until today. Next time I go out on the property, or out on the township, which will probably be on Friday, I can check that one out. The other 2 vehicles that Mr. Hayes informed me of, the woman informed me that her son would be getting his license, and that was going to be his car. And the other one was a car that was parked in the street, and therefore not a zoning issue, and I passed it on to Chief Comey, and I believe they addressed that with the property owner.
Good.
And those were both about 3 months ago, July, August,
And
4 months ago.
for future reference, do we have a place where you log all complaints, you log, when you went out there, what you found, and then the resolution to that issue?
Yes, Zone Pro, the same thing, the same program we use for our permits.
Okay.
I can access it, Val can access it if I'm not in the office. As soon as I go out, when the complaint first comes in, we usually don't put it into Zone Pro, we wait until we go out and do an inspection and then log it in.
I'd like it if we put everyone that comes in, because that way if
Well,
somebody...
no, they all get logged in,
Okay,
but they don't get logged in until we go out and do an inspection and determine if there is a violation or not. But
okay,
even if it isn't a violation, it's a complaint and it still
Yes.
gets logged in.
yeah. So if I get a question as to what happened with this, I can go somewhere and find exactly when you were there, what you found, and what
Right.
the resolution was.
Right.
Yeah, records.
Yeah. Okay.
I disagree. I want to rebuttal. I disagree.
I know
He
Al.
went on the property, went up and knocked on the door.
No,
And
no.
asked if the car, so you were on the property to see it. Were you on the property?
We never go on the property unless
You
the
did, how'd you
property...
got there? What'd you do, yell from the street? No, you didn't, Darrell. You went up and talked to the woman at the house, and you seen the car. There's the sidewalk, that red Saturn. I can show you. He's got the number. He gave it to John. This is a runaround. This is not right.
Al, I was not aware of the red Saturn until today. The other two cars,
Well, go over there tomorrow, and you can see there's no plate at all. You can see that part.
I
Not
believe you.
there, no plate. There's no plate. But when you said you can't go on the property, that's dancing around the subject. You went on the property. Did you go on the property and knock on people's door?
no, I never go on the property and knock on the
Well, how
door.
did you talk to the woman? Did you yell
Because
from
I
the
send a
street?
letter to the property owner that there's a violation or a possible
Did you go
violation.
to the door to talk to her?
No.
How'd you get a hold of her?
I sent a letter to the property owner. She
You have a
con-
copy of that letter?
Sure. She contacted the zoning office.
Come on. You're dancing.
This is typically how our...
I'll take them all out there and I'll show them. They ain't that blind, Darrell.
But let's just,
Pushing it, Darrell.
let's make
Not
sure,
right. Just say you didn't do it. Don't make me look like a fool.
Let's go, let's, if we can, try to move on from here. Maybe if you get a chance the next day or so, you're gonna be back in touch with Al, if you have a copy of the letter. If you don't,
I have it right
great.
here in front of me.
Okay, all right, well, maybe after the meeting or something, you guys can, you know, move
So
on.
you
But
wrote them a letter and she talked to you on the phone. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yes.
So you didn't go on the property?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I do think there's a breakdown there where, obviously sending a snail mail letter is going to add a week to any process. So, and I'm sure Chief Bomey and John Burrell will be able to give us a little bit more legal guidance in terms of how to handle that, but I mean, certainly going up and knocking on a door is going to expedite that whole process and possibly getting it resolved in a day or two rather than 2 weeks, a month's time. And again, I think any person, whether it be a trustee or a citizen, should be able to come in and look at that log and see what the complaint was and the resolution to it.
It's on Zone Pro.
Okay.
I don't want to be rude to you. They were working. Can't you see my point? It's still flickering. Can anybody see my point?
I do. Al, I know you've expressed concern over many of these issues for a long time, and
I gave you a copy of the paperwork.
you did.
Put it in writing, I did.
I know.
Okay, yeah.
We will, and again, if we've got a rule on the books, it's our job to enforce it. So, if they tell you it's gonna be my son's car or something, well then get it licensed and registered and move forward. But letting a car sit without a tag is, not acceptable. And I do think, between the fire and the zoning, we can get something on Cinco, not get something on them, but get them to resolve that issue at Cinco de Mayo.
I agree.
Okay. And that is it. I would like to offer a motion to adjourn at 6:48.
Second.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. Neil, you got any plans to hook up down there or anything?